What makes art coherent? Beyond making something that's aesthetically pleasing, how do you ensure a message is delivered without having to spell it out to your audience? It turns out all visual mediums share the same foundational building blocks, and you can use these same building blocks to analyze, comprehend, and even plan your own composition, whether you're drawing, painting, sculpting, filming, or even sewing. I'm talking about the 7 elements of design. My name is G, and I love the intersection of art and science. If that sounds interesting to you too, go ahead and hit the subscribe button.
Line is the most basic of the 7 elements, and it's defined by a connection between any 2 points. Lines can be thick or thin, straight or curved, dashed or solid. Lines can be used to lead the viewer's eyes. They can create texture, illustrate light and shadow, suggest movement, and even establish a mood. Lines can illustrate the flowing nature of waves, as well as the hard and jagged rocks they'll crash against. The quality of lines in an artwork can convey a wide range of meanings and emotions. Thick lines can suggest strength, power, and emphasis, while thin lines may imply delicacy, fragility, or subtlety. Bold lines can create a sense of dominance and importance, while lighter lines may indicate gentleness or insignificance. Straight lines can evoke a sense of order, stability, and structure, whereas curved lines might suggest movement, fluidity, and grace. These are just some of the ways that the most basic building block can impart meaning. When a line's beginning and end connect or intersects with another line, a shape is created. Shapes are flat, two-dimensional, enclosed areas, and while there's an infinite number of them, they all fall under one of 2 categories. They can be geometric, like conventionally named shapes like squares, circles, rectangles, or triangles, or they can be organic and freeform, like the many shapes that you'll find in nature. If you look closely, the world is full of shapes and patterns. We use them to build and design, and we take inspiration from nature. Seeing the world in simplified shapes is one of the first skills you learn as an artist, because it makes drawing and painting objects easier. Shapes can also carry a variety of symbolic meanings and evoke different emotional responses. Circles often symbolize unity, eternity, and wholeness. They can also represent cycles and movement. Squares and rectangles suggest stability and order, but they can also imply constraint or confinement. Symmetry in shapes is often associated with balance and harmony, while asymmetry conveys movement, dynamism, and tension. Artists use shapes to structure their compositions and to convey deeper meanings and emotions. Understanding this can dramatically improve both your skills and your coherence as an artist. When you add depth to shapes, you create form. The interaction of light and shadow becomes crucial in this context because you need light and shadow to perceive depth. Form can be physical and occupy 3D space, like sculptures, but it can also be implied when artists make a flat canvas look 3-dimensional. This style of art, for example, is called trompe l'œil, which translates from French to deceives the eye. It takes this effect to the extreme. By using light, shadow, and perspective, artists can create an illusion of depth so convincing your brain actually thinks it's real. These images I'm showing you are all drawings or paintings. This is one of my favorites by Braga because you can see the original that he painted on. This fresco of the dome of the Jesuit church by Andrea Pozzo, this is actually a flat ceiling. There's no dome, it's just painted to look like there's a dome. All of these are flat illusions, none of them are actually 3D. Much like their 2D counterparts, geometric forms are used to suggest stability and structure, while organic forms with their irregular and fluid lines can evoke a sense of movement and natural growth. Forms can also convey different emotions and messages depending on their proportions and arrangement. For instance, a series of dynamic, asymmetrical forms might suggest energy and chaos, while symmetrical forms can create a sense of order and calm. Forms can also be analyzed through their relationship with space, examining how they occupy and interact with the negative space around them. And this actually leads us to the next element perfectly. Space is how objects relate to one another within a composition and how the viewer perceives depth and perspective. There are many techniques you can employ to manipulate space, like overlapping elements, varying sizes, and employing linear or atmospheric perspective. Space can be thought of as the area that the artwork occupies, but it can encompass the work of art as well as the area outside it and around it. In flat two-dimensional media like paintings, the objects are contained within the borders. The main objects are thought of as the positive space, while everything around them is called the negative space. Space is also one of the ways you gain insight into the narrative and emotional tone of a piece, because it can convey emotional and conceptual messages. For example, a composition with vast open negative spaces might evoke feelings of isolation, or freedom, or tranquility, whereas crowded compositions with little negative space can create a sense of chaos, intensity, or confinement. One example of this from the movie format is the scene from Spike Lee's 1989 film Do the Right Thing, the boombox battle. If you remember the scene, there's a showdown between 5 individuals and who has the loudest boombox. On one side, you have 5 individuals occupying less than half the frame, and then on the other side, you have 1 individual occupying almost the entire frame. So notice how Radio Raheem's character is purposefully shot from below to make him seem like he's towering over them. This is exactly what I'm referring to. So understanding what the use of space implies can shed valuable insight into the artist's intent and shaping the viewer's experience. Texture refers to the surface quality of an object. In art, it describes how it feels or how it looks like it would feel. We often think of visual art as meant purely for the eyes, but a lot of artists will try to simulate your sense of touch even when the work isn't meant to be touched. Texture can be real and tactile, or implied visually. If you were to touch a sculpture, you could actually feel all the rough surfaces and crevices. But if you touch the painting of that sculpture, all you would feel is the smooth paint. But you can also use paint to create texture. In a technique called impasto, for example, you lay the paint on so thick that it becomes a sculpting element. Other artists will integrate jewelry, fabrics, sand and seashells, and many other objects to create texture. Texture influences the mood and emotional impact of the artwork. Rough, jagged textures can evoke feelings of discomfort, tension, or aggression, while smooth, soft textures might convey calmness, warmth, and serenity. By understanding how texture is used, viewers can gain insight into the artist's intent and the emotional nuances of the artwork. Value is how artists control the illusion of light. Value refers to how light or dark a given hue is, and it's best understood when displayed as a gradient. You can alter any color's value by tinting, toning, or shading. Tinting is the process of adding white to a color. Toning is adding gray to the color, while shading is adding black to a color. Value is a crucial element in creating form, depth, contrast, and emphasis, and it can influence the viewer's perception and emotional response. Value contrast can be used to draw attention to specific parts of the artwork. High contrast often creates drama and tension, making elements stand out and appear more dynamic, while low contrast can evoke a sense of calmness and harmony. The overall value scheme of an artwork can also greatly affect its mood. Darker values and a predominance of shadows can create a somber, mysterious, or dramatic atmosphere, while lighter values can evoke a feeling of openness, lightness, and tranquility. By analyzing value, viewers can gain insight into the narrative and thematic elements of the piece, as well as the emotional tone the artist intends to convey. So when light hits an object, depending on the material of the object, some of it will be absorbed and some of it is reflected. The light we see reflected is what we refer to as an object's color. We call red, blue, and yellow primary colors because we can't create them by mixing other colors. Green, orange, and violet are the secondary colors created by mixing the primary colors. And then if you mix the primary and secondary colors in different combinations, you get what's called the tertiary colors, like yellow, green, or red, orange. Colors can evoke specific emotions and carry symbolic meanings. Warm colors like red, orange, and yellow are often associated with energy and passion, while cool colors like blue, green, and purple can suggest calmness, serenity, and introspection. Colors can also have cultural or contextual significance that could provide insight into a work's message or intent. From a narrative perspective, complementary colors can create visual tension through the use of contrast, while analogous colors can create harmony and cohesion. And from a mood and atmosphere perspective, the intensity of colors can suggest youth, vibrancy, and energy, while neutral and muted colors may suggest subtlety or even nostalgia. By analyzing the use of color, viewers can understand how artists manipulate visual elements to enhance storytelling and create a cohesive visual experience. Recognizing these aspects allows for a deeper appreciation of the artist's technique and the emotional and conceptual layers within the artwork. And there you have it, my friends. That was my video on the 7 elements of design that apply to pretty much any visual medium. I hope you learned from this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Please follow my channel if you don't already, and I'll see you in the next video.